So as we get started today, this video is divided into chapters. If you want to skip at any point, just look at the sliding bar underneath the plating window and you can see the chapters to skip ahead. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. As well as my friends over at Yarnspirations.com. This came in as a request directly to Yarnspirations through social media and then was passed along with me, and it is the Crochet Texture Sampler Blanket. I really like samplers. I like how you can learn some stitches and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So designed by Julia using Bernat Blanket Sparkle. So when you see the yarn, it does actually sparkle, and when it sparkles it's not like a crazy sparkle. You may see it, you may not too, but the filament is exceptionally soft, and unless I told you it was there, you may not even realize it's there, but you'll see that the yarn will have those flecks of glitter when it hits your eyes. So what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to teach you how to do this pattern. We're going to do it from start to finish, but my blanket will be just a summation, and we're going to go through the instructions and I'm going to take you through a bit of a detail walkthrough right in the very beginning. So if that's something that you want to avoid, you can just fast forward in the chapters. So as we begin this, I'm going to have a swatch sample, and the swatch is going to take me through all of the layers that we would like to do, and there's a repeating that is involved with some of them. And the key factor on this one here is that sometimes there's 80 stitches across and then sometimes there's 79. So you'll notice in here I went ahead and I looked at it in advance. So this particular section has 80 half double crochets, this one has 79. So we're going to have to adjust when we get to those particular layers to make sure that we are staying on track. Now this pattern that I'm looking at here is being revised currently, and so you'll see a different version that will be slightly altered. Diagram 1 on this version has been eliminated out and it has been replaced with a new diagram. So thanks to Julia for doing that for us. So this one here, I've not figured out how to change the size in this one because it is a stitch sampler. So I'm just gonna state this is what it is. So Bernat Blanket yarn is what it is. Bernat Blanket yarn is what is called for. It's an 8mm size L crochet hook, and you're going to start off with chaining it of 82. And again, I'm just gonna make a swatch. So as we begin, we're going to start off with the very base of the blanket and work our way up, and I'll just be following the instructions and then pulling you back to the instructions whenever we need to do that. So for now we're going to start off and we're going to do the puff stitch section as number 1 first, and let's just go through that next. So this is the puff stitch section number 1, and what we have here is that when we go to do chaining of 2, when we skipped, it does not count as a stitch. So you're just gonna be noticing that in the instructions. So we have a diagram that's available to you. That's the one that's been replaced, and that's what it's going to look like here. So you'll just do your chain, you half double crochet your 3rd chain from the hook, and then just go all the way back, and then we have to work on this to get ourselves all the way. So section number 1 here is actually really quite simple. It's only 5 rows, and then we're gonna move on to the waffle stitch section, which is section number 2. So as we get started today, you're going to start off with a slip knot. This is called Planetary Purple Spa. That's the name of this Bernat Blanket Baby Blanket Sparkle. So I need you to chain 82. So just chain as you normally do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and go all the way to 82. And again, I'm only going to do a little piece of it. So go to 82. Meet me back here in just a moment. So let's begin our first row. We're going to go 3rd chain from the hook, and what I recommend for Bernat Blanket is that never go into the back hump of a chain because it'll open up and it will be very, very big. So what I'm recommending to you is just count back to the 3rd. So 1, 2, and 3, and when you go to do that, just make sure that there's 2 loops that are on top, and you're going to half double crochet in that one, so that there's only 1 bottom strand. So it's opposite to what I would normally teach, but I know this particular yarn very well. So then you're gonna go to the next chain and you're just gonna half double crochet yourself all the way across, and I'll be back in just a moment, and this is row number 1 of section number 1. So I've gone all the way across, pretend it's the whole distance. As I said, I'm doing a small swatch. Grab a spare piece of yarn at this time and just go in behind some stitch work on the row, and I want you just to attach it. You'll remove this later, but every time you see this falling out, this is the right side of the work. So in the back you won't see it, so that's the wrong side. So we will be going back and forth, and you will see references to the wrong side, right side at times, and this will always indicate where you are. Let's move on to row number 2. So turning our work and going to row number 2, we're going to work on the horizontal bars in front of the work. And so the horizontal bars are not the actual stitch itself, but it's the bar directly underneath it. So here's your normal stitch and it's right here. So let's just start off and you're going to chain 2. That will not count as a stitch, and you're going to go to your first bar. It's right here. Okay, so there's the stitch normal, it's right here, and you're going to half double crochet yourself on that bar, and this is going to create what appears to be a knitting look on the front side of the work. So let's just do that. So starting in the next one, sorry, I just had to turn off the video for a second, and then you're just going to half double crochet in the next horizontal bar. Once you can see where it is, it becomes really easy. So you're just leaving the top normal stitch alone and just continue to work on the front horizontal bar. So let's see what it looks like on the back. See, it's creating this beautiful line, which is part of your texture. So please just go all the way across on the horizontal bar and half double crochet and meet me back here in just a moment. This is row number 2 of section number 1. So I'm coming all the way to the end. How many stitches are left? If the chain 2 doesn't count, that's not a stitch. So your last one is on the back bar, or sorry, on the front bar, on this last one right here. Like that. So ignore that chain 2. So it does pop out a little bit, but we are doing a border, and when you turn it around you'll see this is now the front side of the work, the right side, because you can now see texture. We're now going to move on to row number 3, and row number 3 is another fun round, or another fun row. Let's begin. So in row number 3 we're going to chain 2, does not count as a stitch, and you'll half double crochet the first 2. You're going to skip 1 only and do a puff stitch, and then you are going to then chain 2, puff stitch in the same one, and then skip 1 2 3 and then puff, chain 2, puff, skip 1 2 3, and you'll do this all the way to the end. When you get close to the end, then very close, you're going to skip the final 2, so 1 and 2, and then just go into the last 2 as half double crochets. Let's begin row number 3. Okay, let's begin row number 3. Chain 2 does not count as a stitch, and in the first one here and the second you'll put in a half double crochet each. So 1 and 2, and then as we start, then we're going to skip the first one and we're going to do a puff into the second one away. To do that you're gonna wrap the hook and going in and then pull through, and then you'll do that again. So wrap the hook and in, pull through, and then do it one more time, in, pull through, like that. So you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 loops. You're going to yarn over, pull through all 7 loops, and that's your puff stitch. Chain 2 and then do that again. So in the same one, wrap and in, pull through, wrap and in, pull through, and wrap and in, pull through, and then pull through all 7. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. I don't need to count it if you confirm that you did it 3 times. So just pull through everything. Now as you're moving across, now you're going to skip 3. So 1 2 3, and then the 4th one away you're going to puff again. So puff, so once, twice, and 3 times a lady. And then pull through everything, and then chain 2 and do that again in the same stitch. So the only difference is how you're ending a row. Okay, and then skip 1 2 3, go to the 4th and do it again. Please do this all the way across. I'll see you close to the other side. So I just want to let you know that I don't know if this width will work for me, so I may end a little bit earlier just in case the stitch count isn't gonna work. So I'm just guessing on the size because I cannot figure out how to change the size on this, and that's fine. It's great the way it is. So I'm coming close to the other side, and by golly, you would think that I planned it, but the swatch actually works going across. So that's awesome. So once you get close to the end, you're going to skip the next 2, so 1 and 2, and then the last 2 stitches here will each be a half double crochet. So I just literally guessed the width. So if you're thinking, okay, well you figured it out, no I didn't. So that was row number 3. Let's move on to row number 4. So let's turn our work and do row number 4. So in row number 4 we're just going to chain up 2, doesn't count as a stitch, and you are going to apply 1 half double crochet in each of the stitches. Okay, so we have the half double crochets, the 2 that are starting off. So 1 and 2, and then each one of the puff stitches will have a stitch. So you got one there, and then where you have to have the balance here is that in the chain 2 space here, put in 2 half double crochets. So there's 1 half double crochet in each of the stitches plus then 2 into the chain 2 spaces, and I will need you to do that all the way across, and then meet me back here in just a moment, and this is row number 4. So in coming up all the way to the end of number 4, remember that that chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so make sure that you do not add that as a stitch, so it keeps it nice and awesome. So let's begin now and turn our work, and let's begin row number 5, which is the last part of section number 1. Let's begin number 5. Now last time we did this, we were on the back and we did the front bar. Now this time it is a stitch sampler, so now we're gonna work on the back bar of this so it will pull forward. So chain 2 for me, and so follow this around. So here's the top stitch right here, 1 and 2, and it's the third one back. It's the third strand, and once you get it, you'll see the rest of them. Okay, so the regular stitch is here, and it was the third bar in behind. So then here's the regular stitch, and the one is right there, and I need you to half double crochet on the back bar going all the way across. So coming all the way across, you can see that this is the layer here. It looks similar to it never always looks exactly identical, but that's the neat thing about this particular concept, is that it's fun and fabulous. So now what I need you to do is turn your work, and we're going to begin, then we're gonna do the waffle section next, and in the waffle section we have to change the stitch counts. So let's bring on that next. So section number 2 is next. So moving along in our pattern, we're moving to the waffle section, and in the first setup row we need to eliminate 1 stitch. So it states there chain 3 and 1 double crochet in the next 39, and then do a double crochet 2 together, and then 1 double crochet in each to the end of the row. The goal ultimately is to eliminate 1 stitch. So you don't want to eliminate it on the ends because it'll indent the one edge, but if you do it near the middle like it's suggesting, then it'll stay pretty much in balance. So what we're going to do is begin that. There is a diagram, and by the time you see it, it will be updated as well. And so we have the setup row number 1 right here, and then we have the row number 1 and then 2. So it's gonna be going through 1 and 2 until a certain dimension. So let's begin the setup row number 1 for the waffle section. So let's begin the setup row. You're going to chain 3, and then you're going to double crochet in the next 39 stitches. So just start counting that out, and then after that you'll do a 2 together double crochet, and I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. So I'm just gonna go about halfway on my swatch here, and then I'll show you how to do that stitch in a moment. When you're ready to do the double crochet 2 together, you're gonna make 2 stitches into 1. To do that, you're gonna yarn over and going into the stitch, next one, and then pull through 2 and hold, and then do the next one. So yarn over, next stitch, pull through 2 and hold. Now you're gonna pull through all 3 loops, and that was the 2 together double crochet. And then once you have that done, you just zip your way and just double crochet yourself all the way to the other edge, and I'll be back in just a moment, and we'll begin rows number 1 and 2, which is part of the repeat for this section. So coming to the end of the line, and make sure that you don't go into that chain 2, which is part of that first stitch that is not included as a stitch. Okay, so you're gonna go into the very last half double crochet here, but ignore that chain 2, and then turn your work, and let's begin then row number 1. In row number 1, we're going to always have the edge here and the other edge to be just a double crochet. So in this case it'll be a chain 3 that counts as a double crochet, and then you're gonna immediately come down to this one right here, and that's gonna be a front post double crochet. We're now making the waffle stitch. So the next 3 in a row will each be a back post double crochet. So wrap and come from the back. This is an intermediate level pattern, so there are videos on specifically stitch instructions if you need that help. Just enter the name of the stitch in YouTube and you can find stuff like that really easily. Now that's the back post double crochet, and now the next one is a front post double crochet. So everything is kind of working in groups of 4 once you understand that. So the next 3 are back post double crochet. So we have 1, 2 and 3, and then we have then the next one is a front post double crochet. So please do that all the way to the end. The second last stitch will be a front post double crochet if you've got your counts done right, and I'll be there in just a moment. So I'm coming to the second last one. I'm just keeping my counts. There's your front post double crochet, and in the turning chain you're going to double crochet, and this is row number 1. So rows number 1 and 2 are the repeat for this, and when we turn we'll be on row number 2, which is looking at the back of the Afghan. So we're going to be doing that next, and so there's 2 rows. So let's begin row number 2. So in row number 2 we have to maintain the edging for the waffle, but we have to just maintain the flatness of the back of this. So we're going to maintain and by chaining 3, and the first stitch here is going to be a back post double crochet. That maintains the ridge on the front side. The next 3 that you can see here, those are double crochet. So just 1 in each. So you can literally follow the pattern with what it's telling you to do by looking at the stitch work. So you can see this one is indented in, so that's a front post double crochet from before. So this time it's a back post double crochet to keep the ridging on the other side. Okay, so just maintain that all the way across, and I'll see you at the end of the row in just a moment. So you'll be coming all the way across. The second last one is a back post double crochet to keep that ridge, and then you'll just double crochet into the turning chain, and then you'll turn and you're back on the front side, and now you can see the waffle is happening. So you're going to repeat then rows number 1 and 2 until the entire section measures 12 inches. So you're going to want to finish off on row number 2. Okay, so when we go to start then the next section will be on the right side, which is the side that's facing up. So please do now rows number 1 and 2 until the whole section measures 12 inches, and that's where I'll pick you up next, and I'll do that right now. I'm now finished the waffle section. I've done my 12 inches. I'm finishing on the wrong side, so when you finish the last row you should be on the back side. So when you're ready to move on to zigzag bobble section, which is the next one up, you should be starting and on the right side. So we can obviously tell that by the stitch marker that we left, but now that the stitch work is becoming obvious and where the texture is, it becomes a lot easier. So let's move it along now to the zigzag bobble section number 1, which is the next up. So the next section is going to have us start up, and we are going to do some fun stuff. We're gonna start with chain 2 and a half double crochet in each of the rows. We're starting on the right side of the work, and that's the good side facing up, and then we're gonna commence through here. So this whole section is exactly what you see for the whole thing, and so it only appears one time. So you just have to do all of these 9 rows next, and we'll be doing this after we get beyond the middle part. So we'll be back doing this later. So let's begin. We're gonna start up with the first row, and let's begin that journey next. And just to bring you back to the pattern, we are now here. So zigzag bobble section number 1, we're doing it for the very first time. That's all the written instructions, and so we'll have to pay attention next time when we do the diagonal spike stitch, which is the next section for now, because then we have to change the stitch counts from what we're still working with now. So let's begin the first row, zigzag bobble section 1. So as I mentioned to you several times, I'm just doing a swatch, so I don't know if I'm actually gonna hit the end of this, but we'll fake it or make it, right? So that's the rules. So we're going to begin, and if you're doing the same size of the pattern, it should work out for you anyway. So you're gonna chain 2, and that doesn't count as a stitch, and you're going to half double crochet in each of your stitches all the way across. So I'll meet you back here in a moment. This is row number 1. So the very last one is the turning chain. Make sure you half double crochet into the turning chain and not the space. Turn your work, and let's begin row number 2. Row number 2 is going to be that horizontal bars that we're gonna work with again, and we're favoring the bars on this side of the work, the wrong side. So you're going to chain a total of 2, so 1 and 2, and half double crochet starting in the very first one on the horizontal bar. We've already done this before, and that's gonna create that texture line on the front. So once you get the first one, so if you're just still didn't get it the first time, remember there's 2 stitches or 2 loops that make a stitch, but it's this one right here. That's where you're going to play, and that will cause the front of the work to fold over, which creates the texture. So please just half double crochet on the front horizontal bar all the way across, and I'll see you at the end of the row. So getting all the way across, I am just doing the last horizontal bar. You're going to skip the chain 2 that started the row because that didn't count as a stitch. Okay, Sorry, I got a little bit of shakes today, don't know why. So we're gonna turn our work and do row number 3 where we're gonna introduce the bobbles next. So we're going to do row number 3, which will consist of single crochets, and I'm gonna get as far as I can to continue the repeat of the pattern, but if you're following exactly with the stitch counts, you should be good. So we're going to do single crochets, which is gonna cause the bobble to squat down. Now what I don't want you to get confused, it's a bobble, it's not a popcorn, so it's a little bit easier. Well, a lot easier to my point of view. So you're just gonna chain up 1, and this is the sequence to take yourself all the way across. You'll single crochet the first 3 in a row, and then the next one is a bobble. To do the bobble, right in the stitch itself, yarn over and going in, pull through 2 and hold. And what I need you to do then is then do that 2 more times. So the bobbles are consisting of doing that 3 times. And so you'll have 4 loops on your hook when you're done. And what you wanna do is when you do the bobble, use your finger and push it out towards you, and you're going to yarn over everything, and when you go to do the next row, squat it down in front of you so that it naturally wants to fold out to the front side and start in the next stitch. So in this next 7 in a row are single crochet. So squat it down, make sure it's tight, tight, tight so it stays on the front side, and then that's 1 of 7, and you're gonna do this all the way across. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then you'll introduce another bobble. To do that then you're going to then going in, pull through 2 and hold. Do that a total of 3 times. Okay, use your finger, push towards you, force it to squat, and then do the next 7. So I need you to do this all the way across, and if you're keeping in sequence, after the last bobble is in, there will only be 3 stitches left. And I want you to do that all the way across, and I'll see you at the end of the row in just a moment. So remember that there's 7 single crochets that separate the bobbles except for on the edges. Now for myself, I can't get all the way across based on my swatch, so this is my last bobble going in, and just ignore the rest that's hidden behind my hand. Once you get your last bobble in, make sure that you do push it to the good side and then do it. So you'll have 1, 2, and 3. So your bobbles then will go in there, and in your full example it will go all the way across. So you'll have 3 on one side here on the edge, 3 on the other, and then 7 that separate those. So let's turn our work and begin row number 4. Let's begin number 4. Chain up 1, and you're going to apply 1 single crochet in each. Make sure that you do not add any extra stitches when you do the bobble. The bobble is only 1 stitch. So if you do the bobble, this is the bobble, and if you have to, just count and make sure that there's 7 before you do the next bobble, and etc. So that might be helpful for you if you're not as experienced at recognizing the stitches. Please do row number 4, and we'll be doing row number 4 again in the future, but for now just single crochet. I'll see you at the end of the row. So coming to the end of the row, single crochet right to the end, and then turn your work, and then we're gonna be back on the right side of the work. So now we're going to apply more bobbles, even more on this next row as we proceed to row number 5. So beginning number 5, you're going to chain up 1, and there's gonna be 1 single crochet in the edge. So there's gonna be 1 single crochet by itself, and then on the other side when you get all the way over there, there'll be 1 on its own. The next one is then a bobble. So you're just going to do what you already know. So it's doing that, yarning over 3 times and pulling through, and then pull through all 4, squat it down, and so there's only gonna be 3 stitches in between the bobbles. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and then you're back to the bobble again. So just do another bobble, and you'll do that all the way across. Sorry, that was a puff stitch I was just doing. I know. So there we go. So we're adding our bobble. I don't even like puff stitches. That's what's kind of funny about it. So you got your puff, and then you squat it, force it out. So 1, 2, and 3, and then bobble, and then etc. And if your stitch counts are right, your last bobble will be the 2nd stitch from the end, and then just 1 single in the end. Please do that all the way across. This is row number 5. So I'm getting all the way across. So the second last stitch, if you're keeping the counts, will be the bobble as I promised. And then finally just tight, 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 last single crochet, pop it out and single crochet on that one. Let's turn our work and let's continue to row number 6. Row number 6, it's the same as what we already know, so just chain up 1 and apply 1 single crochet in each of the stitches in between, each of the stitches in, on the row, and continue all the way across. So this is row number 6 with the straight single crochet across. I'll be right back in just a moment. Coming right to the end of the row, turn your work and let's begin row number 7, and again the bobbles are going to change location one more time. So let's do number 7 next. Let's begin number 7. So number 7, you're going to start up, you're on the right side of the work, chain up 1 and do 1 single crochet in the first 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. And now the next one's the bobble. Oh my god, you know what I just noticed? I had no idea. We're actually doing an up and down zigzag. That's why it's called the zigzag bobble. Okay, so ooh, calm down. Okay, so this is where the bobble is. Oh, that's pretty freaking cool. I had no idea. I didn't know why it was called the zigzag. So pull it through and then you're just gonna drop it down into the next, and I bet we're doing the next 7, right? So let me just take a quick glance over. Yes, it's 7. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and look at that, it's going up and down in a zigzag. Ah, that's fun. Woohoo. I like learning new stuff like this. Okay, so you're gonna do that bobble and you're just gonna keep putting 7 in between, and eventually you'll come to the end like I'm about to. Sorry, I'm getting all excited. I'm losing my train of thought. Losing my marbles. So we have the last 7 will be a single crochet if your counts are right by the time you get all the way across the line. So let's do that, and I'll be right back in a sec. We'll start off row number 8, but I'm gonna have to admire these up and down zigzags. That's the coolest thing ever. Okay, let's begin row number 8. So I've already turned the work. Chain up 2 does not count as a stitch. It's a half double it's a chain 2, it doesn't count. So we're now just gonna half double crochet in each of the stitches just regularly all the way across, and this is row number 8, and we're almost done this section. Learn something every day. I'll be right back. So coming all the way to the end, half double crochet, turn your work, and we're back on the right side, and we're about to do the final row of this section, and we're gonna be back on the horizontal bars, but this time focusing on the back side so we can create this line that we saw here. So let's do that next. Let's start row number 9. So we're going to play on the horizontal bar on the back side so we can create this line again on the front side. So last time when we did this we were on the back moving it forward. This time we gotta go on the back side. So the stitches, the 2 loops are the stitch, and the third one is right in behind. So it's going on an angle down. So chain 2. The first one's always tough to get into, and just take your time. Sometimes turning it sideways to access it may be the best, and I would probably do that if you weren't watching me too. And so you're just doing the back side with the half double crochet that way. Once you get the first one done, then you just keep on moving down. I'm just turning it sideways so I can see it. See, it's right there. So there's one, and I'm gonna continue that all the way across. So I'll be back in just a moment. This is the final row for this section. So it's just about to cut away, and I'm just gonna continue to leave the pattern on its side like this. I seem to be having trouble reaching over the back side, so I'm just gonna keep working it down so that the project is kind of in line with me instead of the traditional way. I think that might be the best way to tackle that. I'll be back in a moment. So the end of the row is now complete, and we're now going to move on in the pattern to the diagonal spike section next. So we're now at the end of the zigzag bobble section, and we're gonna move on now to the diagonal spike section next, and we have this, and you can see the up and down motion of the zigzag. And let's begin and turn our work to the wrong side and start, but we have to go back to the pattern just really momentarily just to show you that there's a change in the stitch count. So as we start the diagonal spike section, we have the setup row. It's asking us to add an additional stitch right in the middle of the Afghan. So you know how we reduce down to get one less, we need to increase it back up to that 1. So you're gonna single crochet in the first 39, 2 single crochets in the next, and 1 single crochet in each to the end, and that brings it from 79 to 80 stitches. So when we go to look at this pattern in the diagram, is that we're trying to get it established and we're moving on this. This is really easy to be able to complete, and this is the whole middle section that we're going to do. So we're currently here in the middle. Let's begin to do this section, and this here is the diagonal spike section right in the center of your blanket. So let's begin the setup row. So you're just gonna chain up 1 and you'll single crochet in the first 39 stitches. So just single crochet across. Myself, I'm just gonna add an extra stitch halfway through. So you're just gonna go all the way through, you'll count to 39, and then in the next one then you'll put 2 single crochets into the same stitch and then 1 single all the way to the end. Make sure that you have your stitch count of 80 before continuing on to row number 1 of the repeat of this pattern. So let's begin to do that next, and I'll be right back in a second. And just to recap, to put 2 single crochets into the same stitch, just single crochet once and then twice into the same stitch and then carry on from there. So that adds that extra stitch that you need. Carry on. I'll be at the end of the row in a second. So I'm coming up all the way to the end, and you turn your work, and we're gonna be on the right side next, and this is when we're gonna start the fun stuff of doing the overlays. So row number 1 is the repeat through the whole thing, and we're going to continue. So once we get it established, we're going to continue to repeat row number 1 until we have another 12 inches done. So let's begin row number 1. As we move on to number 1, it's the same instruction whether you're reading it this way or on row number 3 going the other way. They just did that just for verification of what we're about to do. This whole stitch wraps around the additional stitches that are there. So this line here appears on the back side. So this is a stitch that's reversible. Let's begin to do this section next. So you'll start up, and the first chain 3 will be your double crochet, and then the very next stitch will be another double crochet. So that's gonna be your edge. So when you get to the other side, the last 2 is going to be your double crochets. You're now about to start doing the diagonal spike. So we're going to double crochet the next 3 in a row. So just remember it's 3. So we have 1, 2 and 3. And when you do the diagonal spike, what you want to do is wrap the hook, and you want to come into the same stitch as the first one of the 3. So wrap and then going into the same stitch, which causes this strand to wrap around the other post and pull through. I would provide a little bit of slack, so just kind of like wiggle it a little bit and then double crochet as normal. And what this is doing, it's giving the other 3 double crochets a hug like that. So that counts as this stitch right here. So you're gonna immediately skip this one and go this one. So you'll do the next 3 in a row. So we have 1, 2 and 3. So then you'll do the next one, but it will be in the first one of the grouping of 3. So in, same stitch, provide a little bit of slack, and then double crochet as you normal did. And that's what we're doing. So skipping this one because that's counted as this one, and then do the next 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and come to the first one, in, give it a hug, pull through, and 2. And that's neat, eh? So I want you to do this all the way across, and then the last 2 stitches will just be double crochets as normal. I'll see you there in just a moment. When you get all the way to the other side, you've got your last one in here, so that counts as this one. So you only have 2 double crochets in a row. So adding that extra stitch put you back in balance. It did even for my little swatch here. So you're going to turn your work and repeat that row over and over and over until you get 12 inches done, and you're going to end on the right side of the work, which is the good side facing up. So let's review on how to do this row one more time. To do this row again, this is repeating of row number 1, so you're gonna chain 3. That's your first double, and then double crochet in the next. So there's your edging. So you'll just use the first 3 as double crochets. So 1, 2 and 3. And do you see that that stitch that we created, even on the back side, it has the sideways or the diagonal look, right? So once you get your 3 in, you'll come back to the first one, give it a hug, a little bit of slack and double crochet. That counts as this one. So you immediately start, and you'll see that these will group together like a column. So you do the next 3. So 1, 2 and 3. Come to the first one of that group, give it a hug, pull through, and that counts as that one. So please do this all the way across, and we'll talk at the end of this row, because this is all you need to do for this whole section, which is the middle of your blanket. So once you're all the way across, you're skipping this one because that's concluded in there, so you have the 2 last. Okay, so let's talk. We're going to repeat that row over and over and over until you have 12 inches done, finishing on the right side. So when you get your 12, you should be on the front side with all the texture facing up, and then we're gonna carry on. So that's what I need you to do. So please keep repeating until you can measure 12 inches, and the 12 inches the section. So the 12-inch section here would be right here. So this whole section will be 12 inches. So let's continue, and I'll see you back here in a few moments, but I just got some homework to do in the meantime. So I now have my 12 inches done from when I started this section to where I am. I did have to change the color just because I ran out of this color. So now you're on the right side. You can tell if you look at the bobbles that are over here, that's on the right side. So when we do the final row of the diagonal spike section, we should be turning our work and doing the wrong side. So on the wrong side, we have to do something just slightly different so that we can get ourselves reset back up to do the next section after this. So the last row that you need to do is called next row in that particular section of the pattern, and what we have to do is that we have to decrease 1 stitch in order to bring ourselves back into balance so that we can do the zigzag bobble section number 2, and it's the same instruction as number 1. It's just the twice that it appears. So what we're going to do is that you're just gonna chain 1, and you'll single crochet in the first 39 stitches. So you'll go all the way to 39, and then you'll put 2 stitches together. So in my case, just put me on pause now and meet me at when you finish 39, and we'll continue that in just a second. For myself in the swatch, I'm just gonna go halfway across. Once you get your 39 in, the next stitch is just going to be 2 together. So just go into the next stitch, pick it up, and go into the next stitch after that, pick it up, and then pull through all 3 loops, and then just single crochet everything to the very end of the row. So please do that, and this is going to be the end of the diagonal spike stitch section, which is right here. So I'll be back in just a moment, and we'll start up a new section, the zigzag bobble section number 2. So once you get the single crochets all the way in, just turn your work, and we're going to begin the next section, and I'm gonna take you back to the instruction now. So here in the instruction, we just finished this. So we got ourselves back to 79 stitches. So it says zigzag bobble section number 2, repeat the 1st and 9th row as given for the zigzag bobble section number 1. So all you just have to do is look over here, and it's that set of instruction, and again it's the same road map that we used before. Okay, so we're going to begin that section all over again, and I will film it fresh just so that you understand. Let's move along now to the first row of this next section. Okay, first row of the zigzag bobble section number 2, you're going to chain 2. That will not count as a stitch, and you'll half double crochet in each of the stitches going all the way across. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit. We've already done this before. You're already starting to get to know your stitches, and just go to the end of the row, and I'll be right back, and we'll start number 2 in a moment. So half double crocheting right to the end, and now we're going to begin. So we're on the good side of the project, the right side. We're gonna turn our project now and go back to the wrong side, and we're going to begin number 2. So we're going to half double crochet on the horizontal bars. So you're going to chain 2, and the top of that's the top of the stitch. It's this bar right here. Okay, and you'll half double crochet starting in the first one and using the front horizontal bar for the entire row across. So please do that, and we'll start row number 3 in a moment. Go right to the very end of the row, and I'll already be turned and ready for you for number 3. So I'm at the end of row number 2. I lied. I just wanna make sure that you are getting the horizontal bar of the last one, and you are ignoring that chain 2 that's still there. So just getting that last horizontal bar, and then turn your work, and let's do row number 3, where we're gonna reintroduce the bobbles back into play. Let's begin to do our bobble work. We're going to chain 1, and the first 3 will be single crochet. So we have 1, 2 and 3, and then, so then you're just gonna wrap and pull pull through and pull through 2 and hold and wrap and in, pull through 2 and hold and wrap and in, pull through 2 and hold. You'll have 4 loops. We've done that before. Pull through, and now the next 7 in a row will each be a single crochet, and you're gonna repeat that across. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and then you're going to then put a bobble into the next. So do that total 3 times. You've done this before. And then nice and tight in the next one and pop it forward. So use your finger, push it forward and then secure it tight. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and then bobble. So you're gonna repeat that across, and then once you get to the end you'll be bobbling the 4th last stitch, and that's just keeping in the count, so I'm not doing anything special. And then the last 3 are just single crochet. So 1, 2 and 3. So please do this all the way across, and I will see you back here in just a moment as we continue to row number 4. So row number 4, we're just turning our work. You're chaining 1, and then you're just gonna single crochet yourself all the way across. And I'll meet you back here in just a moment as we move to row number 5. Okay, number 5, we're gonna have lots of bobbles going on, so we're just gonna start. I've already turned my work, so I have chain 1, and you'll single crochet in the first one and then bobble immediately into the next one. Okay, and then you're just gonna bobble, or sorry, single crochet just 3 in a row. So 1, 2 and 3. So I keep missing my stitches today. It's because my hand is not resting on the armrest. So the next one is a bobble. And then the next 3 are on their own single crochet. So please do this all the way across, and when you get to the other side there's only gonna be 1 stitch after the last bobble, and make sure you fill that in, and this is row number 5. Okay, once number 5 is done, just turn your work. You did have 1 single crochet after the last bobble, as I talked about already, and now we're gonna turn our work and do number 6. So it's just what we already know, and it's just chain 1 and 1 single crochet in each of the stitches going all the way across. So please do that, and I'll meet you back here as we continue to row number 7 next. Okay, let's begin number 7, and we're just going to start up immediately and just chain up 1 and do 1 single crochet in the first 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and then bobbles in the next, and therefore you're gonna get that zigzag going on again, right? You know how I realized that last time? I'm a crochet teacher, I'm not a rocket scientist. So we got our bobble, and make sure that you do go nice and tight into the next one to make sure it pops out and stays out. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and then bobble, and then 7 singles, and then bobble and 7 singles, and then after the last bobble goes in there will be 7 singles to take you to the end. So please do that. This is row number 7. Turning a row at the end of row number 7, and we're going to go, this is all sitting on my lap at this point. So we're going to start, and you're going to half double crochet, so chain 2, that's not your first one, it doesn't count, and then you half double crochet in each of the stitches going all the way across, please. This is row number 8. We have 1 more row in this section before moving on to something new, and I'll be back in just a moment. And finally, after the end of row number 8, turn your work, and we're gonna be back on the right side of the work, and we're going to be doing the horizontal bars on the back side of the half double crochet. So chain 2, that does not count, and just lean it forward, and the first top is the regular stitch, but you need to go in behind even more. So like I showed before, kind of come in on an angle to get it. I actually used the hole off camera when I did it before, and I think I told you, is that I kept leaning it over to the side just to make sure that I can see it, and just continue to do that. So please half double crochet on the horizontal bar on the back side, and this will create the ridge on the good side of the work. Please do that all the way across, and meet me back here in a moment as we move along in this to a new section. We're now finished with the zigzag bobble section number 2. So we're gonna go back to the pattern now, and we're going to move on to the wicker stitch section next. So technically in the pattern we just finished this here on page number 2. So let's grab up page number 3, and in page number 3 we're now going to move on to the wicker stitch section, and the instructions for the diagram are available on the final page right here. And so we're gonna be doing that next. So we're going to just start up, and we have the right counts immediately, so we're gonna do this, and then once we get that done we'll be going back to the puff stitch section, and we're going to be doing that and then the final border. So we're getting close, right? So let's do the wicker stitch section next. So let's begin to do the wicker stitch section, and this is setup row number 1. So we're currently on the wrong side of the project, so when we ended we were just coming across, so I've just turned my work, we're on the wrong side, so that matters. We're going to then just chain up 1 and do 1 single crochet in each of the stitches going all the way across. We've already done this before, so please single crochet yourself all the way across, and be back here in just a moment, and we'll do row number 1. So I'm at the end of setup row. Let's turn our work and let's begin row number 1. So we're now still setting it up to make it happen, and what we're going to do is row number 1 is just chain 3, and that counts as a double crochet, and then starting immediately in the next stitch you want to double crochet. So I need you to double crochet in each stitch going all the way across. This is row number 1 of the wicker section. This will not be repeated in the future, so this is just getting us set up for when we really start the wicker section, which will be soon. So let's continue to do this. This is number 1. So now I just double crocheted across. This is row number 1. Let's turn our work and go row number 2. Row number 2 is the start of the repeat. So every other row is nice and simple. It's just chain up 1 and 1 single crochet in each stitch going all the way across. So please do that. This is row number 2. I'll be back in a moment, and we'll really start the fun stuff in row number 3 in a moment. Coming across here in row number 2, make sure you do go into that turning chain, right into the chain work, not to a space, and turn your work, and let's begin number 3. And number 3 is going to be the overlays that create the stitch look. Let's begin that next. So rows 2 through 5 is the repeat. So we've already done 2, that's just a single crochet. So in row number 3 you're just going to chain 3, that's your first double, and what you want to do is you want to come down to the second one way down here on this front post, on this double crochet post, and make that a front post treble. So wrap the hook twice and come on down to the side and pull through, pull through 2, 2 and 2, and that counts as the stitch that it's sitting in front of. So then you're going to then double crochet the next one that's available. Once you have it established, when you jump down you're just skipping the next one and just come on straight on down so it matches, and you're doing a front post double crochet around that one, and so then you'll double crochet in the next one. So that counts as the one it's sitting in front of, so you go to the next one over, and I need you to do that all the way across please, and that's nice and simple, and I'll be back in just a moment. So coming all the way across, just been doing the alternation between the 2 stitches, you're going to have our double crochet in the final stitch. So it's just a matter of keeping count. So this is the end of row number 3. So turn your work and we'll do number 4, and it's the same as what you already know, is just chain 1. This is on the back side of the project, so the wrong side. So you're just chaining 1 and single crocheting yourself all the way back across. So please do this for row number 4, and I'll be back in just a moment and show you the final of this repeat. Coming up to the end of number 4, don't forget that turning chain is a stitch, so go right into the chain and then turn your work, and let's do number 5. Let's begin that next. To do number 5, the trebles are going to rest in between the other trebles that are there. So when we go to start number 5, you're going to chain up 3, and that will be your first double crochet, and then you're going to double crochet immediately into the next one. So in number 5 here is that we just need to get ourselves so that we can start on the 3rd stitch over. So coming on straight down, do a front post treble. It's around the 3rd one, and that will pick that up, and then you'll double crochet in the next, and that counts. Remember those ones that drop down count as a stitch that it's sitting in front of. So then you'll front post treble the next one. So you're working in between what you see below, and then double crocheting the ones in between those. So please do that all the way across. This is row number 5. When you get all the way to the end of number 5, the last 2 stitches are just a double crochet, and that keeps it in balance. So now what I need you to do is that I need you to repeat then rows number 2 through 5 over and over and over until the section measures a total of 12 inches, and you have to finish on row number 5, and 5 is the right side facing up, and therefore I'm going to meet you there, and we're going to do the final row before then going into the final section, which is the puff stitch section number 2. So please continue to do this wicker section until 12 inches is complete, finishing on the 5th row, and that's where I'm gonna pick you up in just a moment. So I got some homework to do while we wait. So please meet me here in a second, and I'll do this off camera. So I've now just done the wicker section to 12 inches, approximately 12 inches, and I'm here on the right side. So I just finished the right side, which is number 5. To do the final row of this section, you're just going to turn your work and just do 1 row of single crochet. So chain 1 and single crochet yourself all the way, and then we're going to move along and we're going to revisit the puff stitch section number 2, but before you get there just give me a chance to explain what we're going to do. So I just finished my wicker section, so it's ending on the wrong side, so when I turn it the right side is facing up. Let's grab our instructions and let's see where we are and see what we need to do to go to the puff stitch section next. So here on the instructions what we need to do is that we need to start with the puff row section, so half double crochet in each of the next 39, 2 half double crochets in the next, and then 1 half double crochet in each. So we're going from 79 stitches back to 80, which will get us back to where we need to go. Once we have that done, we're going to work rows number 2 through 5 as in the puff stitch section again, and you'll have an update version here, but you'll go from 2 all the way to 5. So on the diagram we're revisiting what we already know. So we'll have our 2 through 5. So what I'm doing right now is considered the setup row number 1 here. So when we move to this, we'll be working through that. So let's begin the puff stitch section and let's move along now. Puff stitch section number 2. So let's begin. You're going to chain 2, won't count, and I need you to half double crochet starting in the very first one in the first 39 stitches, and sorry, that's a half double crochet, so make sure that we actually do that. Even I make mistakes, as most of you know. So what we have here is that's 1 of 39 and then 2, and do all the way to 39 with me, and I'm just going to add that extra stitch in the middle of my swatch, but that's what you need to do. So the first 39 is half double crochet, and meet me back here in a second. Once you got your 39 done, the next one will be 2 half double crochets into the next stitch. So that gives you back your extra stitch that you need for this, and then just half double crochet yourself all the way back to the other side. So please do that, and let's begin then going in the puff stitch section, rows number 2 through 5 next. So I just finished up the first row, and now we're gonna turn and then go back to that first page, page number 2, and it's the puff stitch section once again, starting on row number 2. So row number 2 is that half double crochet on the horizontal bar, and because we are working on the wrong side right now, we're going to do the horizontal bar on the front, on the side that we can see. So we're going to chain 2, and coming right down to the horizontal bar you're going to half double crochet yourself across. I like these horizontal bars. The ones that are doing the way I'm doing it right now are much easier than the ones that are doing it on the back side. But hey, that's personal preference, right? So please just horizontal bar, half double crochet across, and I'll see you on the other side in a moment. So I'm coming all the way to the last one, horizontal bar, and let's turn our work and begin row number 3. It's exactly what we did before when we started this whole journey before, and we're going to chain a total of 2. So 1 and 2 does not count as a half double crochet. The first 2 in a row will be half double crochet each. So 1 and 2, and then you're only gonna skip 1 stitch because it's the starting up of a row, so skip 1 stitch, and you're going to do the puff stitches that make that up. And so you're just gonna wrap the hook, skip 1, go over and pull through, and then wrap the hook again and pull through, and wrap the hook again and pull through. We've already done this before. And then I need you to pull through everything and then chain 2, and then in the exact same one do it again. So wrap and pull through, give it a bit of slack, wrap and pull through, and wrap and pull through. 3 times is a charm. Then pull through everything and then move along. So it's now in the middle of the row, so you're going to skip 3. So 1, 2, and 3, go to the 4th and do this all over again. So wrap and wrap and wrap, pull through everything, chain 2, same one again. So wrap and wrap and wrap and pull through, and then jump over 3 and do the next one. Please do this all the way across. I'll meet you near to the end of the row in a moment. When you come all the way to the end, you got your 2 puffs that are sharing the same. You'll skip the next one, and then it's just 1 half double crochet into the remaining 2 that are left. Okay, and now we're going to turn our work and begin row number 4. Row number 4, you're going to chain 2, and then you're going to, that doesn't count as a stitch, so you're gonna half double crochet in every stitch, and in the chain 2 spaces that are between the puffs, make sure that there's 2 single crochets in that space. So we have 1 and 2, and then continuing with the puff, and then the puff, and then the spaces next. So just move your fingers around if you don't see the spaces, just to open that up for you. Please do that all the way across. This is row number 4. So we're now ready to move on. This is the ending of the 4th row, and now this is the final row before we proceed to the border. So you're looking at the right side facing up, all the texture is facing you, and so you'll chain 2, and you're going to do the horizontal bar on the back side. So just turn and just kind of get in there, and again I would turn this sideways and crochet along the side edge like that. That's what I would do, and that's what I'm doing right now. So go all the way across. This is the final row. Do not fasten off at the end of this row. I'll be right back in just a moment. And this will conclude the puff stitch section number 2. We're now ready for the border. So I'm gonna give you some advice here. We're looking at the right side of the project, and that's exactly where we're going to start. Now you're going to notice that we are going to be doing the horizontal bars on the back, but I have to tell you that when we're going a continuous revolution, it is so much easier than going back and forth doing that. So if you're thinking, well, that was kind of hard to do that, it gets a lot easier, and that's also referred to as the camel stitch. So now I'm gonna pick up and we're gonna do the border, and I'm going to just summation around my little swatch here, and we're going to begin that next. So let's do the first part. So right where you're sitting, I want you just to chain 2. That won't count as anything, and in the same stitch I need you to put in 5 half double crochets, and that will get you to turn the corner. So 1, 2, 3, whoops, try 3 again, 3, 4, and 5. So every time you have a border, or sorry, every time you have a corner, you'll have 5. Now you just have to equally space these stitches out. It's just a half double crochet all the way down. So if you start to seeing it pulling in, that means that you're going too fast, and if you start to see it ruffle, then it means that you're going too slow. So what I want you to do is every now and then, and when I say that, just every few inches or so, check to make sure that it's still gonna be flat for you, and just continually just equally space going down. So on the edges you just want to equally space, and then the top and the bottom you're gonna have your stitch work that you started with to be able to play with. So please equally space your half double crochets all the way around, and put in 5 half double crochets in the corner, and this will conclude the first one, and then the rest of this blanket will then just come together so much easier. So I'll see you at the end of the round in just a moment. So let's pretend I've gone all the way around. I'm just doing a summation, as I said. So I'm just coming all the way around, and I'm just half double crocheting right until where I started. So when we do the next 2 rounds, we're no longer going to be worrying about corners, so you're just going to slip stitch to the first half double crochet. So now we're going to worry about doing rows number 2 and rounds number 2 and 3, and those are the same instructions, so I will just demonstrate it once, and once you see how it's done, it's actually really quite easy. So the corners have a rounded edge because we're not going to add any extra stitches for the corners. So to start, just chain 2 and reach in behind, and you will notice that the back of the stitch is a lot easier to get to. Okay, so here is the regular stitch, and so there is the bar in behind. So you see this particular concept on hats. So once you get the first bar, then you just go for the next bar, and that will cause this, the top, to lay over, and so that will round it off. So you're just gonna play on the back bar, and you're gonna do this for rounds 2 and 3, and then your story is over, and so therefore it'll create a nice rounded edge for you. So please do that. This is the end of today's video, and this came in as a request for yarnspirations.com, and then it was passed over to me if I wanted to do it, and I said absolutely, let's do it. So when you do it next time, you'll just again lean it forward and get the back vertical bar, and you will notice that it will have a really nice texture to it. So this is it. This is the Crochet Texture Sampler Blanket on behalf of yarnspirations.com. Please enjoy, and we hope that you've had a great day. We'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.